evening, everybody. Welcome back to Devils United. We're back again with another preview for Manchester United versus Tottenham. And we've got Andy and Chloe with us today. Andy, how are you doing?
I'm good. I was just watching the Champions League final. We did the watch along on the first leg. We were just watching that before the Champions League semi-final. And you can probably tell, I promise I haven't given Maisy COVID. It doesn't go from right to left. It will...
I'm absolutely fine. Don't worry about it. I'm fine. How are you doing, Chloe?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I think there's just been a goal in the Wolfsburg game. 2-2. Jen Beattie's just scored.
Oh, well, that's interesting, isn't it? So
yeah,
that's gonna.
That could take it. If it carries on, it'll take it. I know it's next time.
Oh, that'd be very interesting.
I need them to do that for me, Reece. I don't want Arsenal to win because I'm not very patriotic at the minute. So I need them to pull their finger out. You have a word with Pot for me, yeah, mate?
But you're an Oberdorf.
But yeah, I'm good. It's good to be back on the channel and looking forward to obviously talking about Tottenham. But unfortunately, I won't be at the game due to working.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I look forward to it as well. Good evening, Sophia. Thanks for coming in. I hope that you are well. Good evening to Ensman. Thanks for coming in. Hope that you are well. Good evening to Rava. Thanks for coming in. Hope that you are well. Hey there, Reese. Thanks for coming in. Hope that you are well. I still think Wolfsburg are winning the lot. Well, we don't know now. Hey there, Vincent. Hope you well. You've missed a great game the other night, Maisy. It was nice to meet Andy and Chloe again, and it looks like they have improved on the burger. But bad news is for sausage rolls. I've got worse.
Oh,
got worse. Let's talk about the game anyway, and we'll go with you first, Andy, on how you thought the game was.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of them actually because it was funny because it was a hell of. I ended up picking quite a few people up, so by the time I got to the game, I had a raging headache, and I think United kind of played a little bit like the same initially. That they took a while to get in gear, and obviously with Rachel Daly's goal in 9 minutes. But obviously, it was fantastic to be there to see another 3-2 victory. It reminded me a lot of being in the away end at the Emirates. But I think it's one of them where, the best teams win when they're not playing brilliantly. And there's quite a few interesting talking points I felt during the game where, we were all quite happy when Mannion got in ahead of Millie, both on Friday night and on the Arsenal game. Yet Millie came on to score the winner. So that's quite an interesting thing to think about. I still think I would have made the same decision and put Mannion on first, but it was a good decision for to bring Millie on. I think that was quite an interesting one, to be honest. But yeah, apart from that, obviously fantastic goal initially off ourselves by Leah Galton, brilliant assist by Honor. Though I know a lot of people said that. That Honor didn't have a brilliant game, including some fans of hers that are really massively good fans of hers. But I don't know if you've got the stats knocking around because I couldn't find them. But I didn't feel she did too badly, to be fair. But some people said Honor. But I thought she did all right. Obviously, good goal by Nikita Paris as well, and obviously the goal at the end by Millie Turner. I mean, and obviously we'll move on to Spurs in a bit, but I think it's interesting because really the Spurs are in a really bad situation at the minute. Apart from Beth England, they would have been done and dusted. So it should be an easy walkover, but I think the pressure is going to go up as we go towards the end of the season because we've only got 3 league games left. If you include Sunday, Spurs, City, and Liverpool, a pressure for Champions League, isn't it?
Yeah, I've had a look there at the stats for Honor in terms of the Aston Villa game. She didn't get player of the match according to FootMob. She played full 90, 1 assist, 8.2 rating, which is quite a high rating considering as well. To be fair, looking at the actual FootMob, the player of the match actually went to Rachel Daly. But Honor actually did have the highest rating for Manchester United. So if you
That's
look at
interesting.
Manchester United point of view, she would have been player of the match.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't the person who was saying it's a really good friend of mine, a massive fan of Honor. She didn't mean anything by it, but it's just interesting from a perception point of view. You know, people have a different view if you watch it at home or if you watch it at the stadium. And obviously, if you like the player or not, I thought we played very well. I just do worry about Spurs because it's the most slam dunk game we've got left. Because then you go on to the FA Cup final, which is going to be a toss of a coin. Then you go on to City at home, and then you go on to Liverpool away. So it's the one. If we're gonna do our usual, it'll be done this weekend, and hopefully not.
Absolutely. There's a few more people who's entered the chat as well. Just wanted to say hey there to our number. Thanks for coming in. Hope that you are well. Good evening, Zoe. Thanks for coming in. Hope that you are well. Vincent, I bumped into Matt Skinner last night at the men's game. I told him we promised end of the ground with just United fans. That's why we had to go through buying the tickets at the club, but we had to fill a fans in with us in the middle with their Sydney sign and band. Matt said he's going to work on it, so next time we'll get our own fully end. Twalumber said we have firepower from the bench. And Twalumber also said no one was marking Bailey. She was free to do anything everywhere. And hey there as well to United Spurs of America. And well, thank you. Hope that you are well too. Chloe, what did you make of the game as well?
Yeah, the game was really good. Like Andy touched on, the goals were cracking, especially Millie's and Nikita's. In terms of the first half and even in the second half, when Aston Villa were having set pieces, I think I mentioned it to Andy and a few of the others. We had set pieces Aston Villa had set pieces, and nobody was marking Jordan Nobbs at the back. Jordan Nobbs was always unmarked, so the ball always went over everyone, landed at Jordan, and Jordan crossed it into Rachel or passed it to Daria or Maz, anyone on the end of the box. But every single time they had a set piece, especially a corner, no one was marking Rachel Daly. And I pointed it out and I was like, no one's marking. And then again, it was like, why is no one caught onto this? And it was just like, no one caught onto it. They were doing long balls and it was just like, it just weren't happening. I think they kind of caught on towards the end, but if it carried on, that Jordan Nobbs could have had a goal. She could have if she had aimed right, or again she could have crossed it into to Rachel Daly again. So it's one of them. But I think like what Andy touched on, starting Mannion was a great idea. It's good to see Mannion back, and then obviously she played a full 90 against Arsenal. She played 86 minutes against Aston Villa. So it just shows that she can make it look like she can come back from an ACL and start at 90 minutes and doing all the way through. And I think it was a perfect time in terms of bringing on Miller for Mannion instead of doing what he did against Arsenal, where he brought Millie on and kept Mannion on and took off a midfielder or a forward. And I think that's for me, that's where we are rotating a lot. We are either going from especially like against the top teams, so I can probably see it against Tottenham or against City or even Chelsea, that we'll go at 5 at the back if we're winning. But I think if we just carry on the way that we were playing in the second half against the next lot teams, we'll win the game, I think. So, and obviously we need to win the next 3 games, obviously to win the title, and hope Chelsea drop points because they play midweek, the week before, a few days before the FA Cup, and then a few days after the FA Cup. So hopefully we can win the game, and it's just obviously it's going to be hard. It's going to be all of us hoping and praying that City, Arsenal and Chelsea drop points, but that's all we can hope for. And as long as we keep winning the games and don't drop points, then that's all that matters for us.
Looking at there's so many games anyway. All of us are, each team who's in the top 4, at least 2 of them are guaranteed to drop points. Because we've got City, we've got Chelsea, Arsenal's got against each other. So either one of us 4 is going to end up dropping points.
Yeah, exactly. And I was looking at the fixtures before, and it's funny how we play City, and then on the same week Arsenal play Chelsea. So it's funny how that's been arranged. And obviously now our kickoff time's changed to 6:45. And I don't know when the Chelsea kickoff time is.
Been there on the early one for the BBC.
Be good that we, like, the girls, if they do, are able to watch that game and go, right, Chelsea have won. If we need to win by this much to keep up, or they've drawn, let's go, girls, let's win. If we win, it will guarantee us Champions League. And that's what they've got to have that in their heads. And whether or not they've just beat Chelsea in the FA Cup or not, it's going to be an achievement anyway in terms of getting to Wembley, getting to an FA Cup final. Winning or losing, we're always there for the girls. And I think as well, we need to, obviously the girls need to make sure that they keep an eye on, not keep an eye on it because I don't think they need to focus on it too much, but just know in the back of their heads that we win these next lot of games, we've guaranteed Champions League, we've guaranteed at least the top 3, and we've guaranteed at least the trophy, fingers crossed. So yeah, just a quick update on Wolfsburg Arsenal. It looks like Lauren Wenrover's got off with an ACL again. It looked quite nasty. So
yeah,
for Arsenal.
And Catherine said the same, who's in the chat. Hey there, Catherine. Another suspected ACL injury at Arsenal. You do look at that and you do think it's either an extremely bad look at the Arsenal camp or there's something wrong there in terms of the training or whatever they're doing there, because I understand ACLs are very common in the WSL. It does need to, women's football in general, it does need to be looked into, but is this the 5th ACL now?
This is the 4th. This is the 4th in Arsenal's squad because you've got Leah out with an ACL, Beth's out with an ACL.
Yeah.
Now Laura looks to be out of an ACL, so something's going on. It's like you said, Maisy. It's either training. It's not strengthening the knees up, or I know me and Andy have touched on it. There needs to be a lot more research into how we can treat ACLs and how to strengthen our ACLs as well, because me and you watched men's football, Maisy, and we've very rarely seen an ACL in the men's game.
Well, that's what I'm worried about because Arsenal have been establishment women's football team for a long time. They have a lot of voice, a lot of client journos. I don't want to mess around with the women's game based on what's going on at Arsenal, because I'm putting this squarely on Arsenal's door here. We weren't there, we were a bit early, but I've had a lot of people tell me that when we played Arsenal, their warm-ups were terrible and they were not good enough. And lo and behold, they got injured. Somebody has to have a look at what Arsenal are doing in relation to warm-ups before they make any big, make any big sweeping judgments about the girls. Girls maybe can't play 90 minutes, or they need to spread out the fixtures, or I can just see it now. I can just see it happening.
But hasn't Aston Villa had a few ACLs this season as well?
100%. But you talked about a lot of the big journalists, the Times journalists, and a lot of others are Arsenal fans, and you can just see. I saw the narrative over Leah that went like that, so I just do worry that. Obviously, I hope the player gets better soon, and there are more research required. But this, we had a physio. I'm not going to name him, but we had a physio a couple of years ago who was, or a fitness person who was awful. We had a load of injuries. She went to City and they had a load of injuries. So it can be extenuating circumstances like that. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the pitch or it's the schedule or anything like that. But definitely more research is needed, because why? Let's look at it another way. I'm not wishing it on anybody, but why are teams with a lot less resources? Why aren't championship players having as many ACLs? I know they're still having them, but you think about it, the Arsenal players are fully professional. Obviously, championship, a couple are still part-time. Best pitches, best facilities, best rehab. So what are they doing wrong? So, I just worry. I hope it's just taken as it is, which is an unfortunate thing for the player, and that no bigger proclamations are made until there's some proper research done about what's going on.
Absolutely. And good evening, Niall. Thanks for coming in. Hope that you are well. Zoe said something. I wanted to get both your thoughts on it. Hey, Maisy, Man United and Man United women should share Old Trafford. If the women, pull off a miracle, that is the WSL or the FA Cup, they would deserve to play every game that season at Old Trafford. I'd pay top season ticket money. I want to get both of your thoughts on that, and I'll go with you first, Andy.
The problem is, if you've been to Old Trafford when we played the women, it's full of people who are just not interested in the football. That's the issue at the moment. It's all about, can I have a picture with Ella Toon? Can I have a picture with Alicia Russo? Yeah, obviously you see today with Arsenal Wolfsburg, if you market it properly, you can get that rivalry game and you can treat it like a football game. So if we do, start marketing our players as players and not coming down, have a nice day out and have a hug from Ella Toon, then maybe we could. I think top season ticket money for men's is 900 quid or 800 quid for the minimum for men's a year. Do I think that women's fans will pay that at the moment? No. But I definitely think it should be something we should move forward. Yeah, as Catherine's saying there, it's too big right now for every game. I mean, you got to look at the A-League, where they play a lot of games in 60,000 seater stadiums with 3,000 or 4,000 people there, and it looks like it's behind closed doors. I think it's definitely something to aim for. I think that there's ways. We're getting more and more sellouts at Lee. We never used to get any other season. So there's reasons to be cheerful, and there's reasons to be positive. But I would say we're probably about 10 years away from filling Old Trafford on a regular basis, for the women's game. But I'd
at least put the big games on at Old Trafford though, because the games that are on Old Trafford, they're not game like let's be real. Like, if you as a Manchester United fan, you're just a men's supporter, and you're thinking, I want to get into the women's football, and you've seen West Ham was at Old Trafford, would you realistically want to go to watch West Ham? No.
Yeah, 100%. But also as well, it's a difficult one because anyone who goes to Lee on a regular basis will tell you that the best atmospheres against the big players is at Lee. So do we want to give that advantage up? But I get what you're saying. I mean, I definitely think the obvious low-hanging fruit would be Liverpool. We said this numerous times because they're awful in the women's game, but they would get bums on seats because of the name and the fact it's United Liverpool. And then the next games you want to be is against the top three, so City, Arsenal, or Chelsea. And as Catherine said,
and I'd even say Liverpool as well.
Yeah,
because as a men's supporter, you would if I never watched a women's football and there was two games, either Man City or Liverpool, I'd be picking Liverpool if I had the choice. I could only go one of the two.
Yeah. And talking about that, looking at Andrew's question as well. The final game is going to be at
Liverpool's ground.
Tranmere. What's it called? Prenton Park. Rather than
is it Tranmere's ground?
Yeah, Prenton Park. It's going to be at Prenton Park because they've started selling the away end, the cow shed.
Prenton Park. Yeah.
Unfortunately, it would be nice to at Anfield, but I don't blame them not giving it us, to be honest.
Yeah, and I'll get Chloe's opinion as well on terms of Zoe's question too. I'll get it back up for you, Chloe. United and United women should share Old Trafford. The women, if pull a miracle, is that the WSL or the FA Cup, they will deserve to play every game that season at Old Trafford. I'd pay top season ticket money.
I think for me, I I would rather sell out LSV first a few times, get it all sold out, and then be able to play at Old Trafford. But I also think that a good, in terms like advertising and stuff like that, that needs to happen a lot more for our women games, not just the day before or a couple of days before. But also, like what Catherine said, in terms of Champions League games, if we get in the group stages, I think Champions League games at Old Trafford would be fantastic for us, because I think it would start to build. I think we would build up the crowd. I think we would get that crowd in, because again, when the Champions League, it's big. Obviously, whoever we get in, say we get Juventus or Wolfsburg in the group, they're going to bring a lot of fans over. And for me, if you're going to bring a lot of fans, if you're going to play such a big team, you don't want to play them in a small ground. Like, if you've seen now, all of Chelsea's and all of Arsenal's games in the Champions League are being played at Emirates, at the Stamford Bridge. So they are bringing, and even though they're not filling the stadiums up, they're still getting over 20,000. And yeah, Arsenal have just got 60,000 in today's game. And I think if we can start building up and fill out LSV a couple of times, like you said, Maisy, like Andy said, have our biggest rivals at Old Trafford, like Liverpool, like City, like Arsenal, like Chelsea, and fill it out that kind of way instead of playing small teams such as West Ham, Villa, Everton there, then it's going to be a lot more better for us. And yeah, I think FA Cup wise, it depends, because we could play a lower ranked team like we did with Sunderland and lose. And I don't think playing an FA Cup team, unless it was one of the big three, could be played at Old Trafford. And another thing is, would it be good to do a double header with the men's? So that could also be another possibility. But other than that, I don't think we'll do a lot of games at Old Trafford until we sold out LSV. But I think it all depends on what the owners, what the club want to do. And obviously, if we do get Champions League and they'd say, right, all of the Champions League games are going to be played at Old Trafford, then that's what they've decided. And we'll just have to see what happens, I think. But it'll be nice to see. It'll be nice to play a lot more teams at Old Trafford, but I think we've got to sell out LSV a few times.
I think you have to remember though as well that Chelsea and Arsenal are put in their men's stadium, especially Chelsea, not for the good of their health, but because they haven't got VAR at Kings Meadow or Boreham Wood. But we have got VAR at Leigh Sports Village from the Euros.
Not anymore. It's been taken off. It was only for the Euros.
Who told you that?
I only thought it was for the Euros, because you've not got the screen anymore.
But it costs $200,000 to put in. Maybe they haven't got the screen anymore, but they must. I don't know. Well, that's what I was in the impression of. I've not heard anything for or against it since, but at least it's a stadium. I'll remember what I'm saying. At least it's a stadium that's VAR-able, for want of a better word, a new word. Whereas Boreham Wood and Kings Meadow aren't. So that's the only issue. And and I agree. We definitely could do with building more fans. I just worry. I mean, we all got. Well, I didn't get the email actually, but a lot of people got the emails about, do you want an acrobat or face painting or a DJ beforehand? So again, I just worry what type of Old Trafford we're going to get if we start filling. But we are. I mean, the first time we ever got to stand in the North stand was this season. The first was Chelsea. I think, if memory serves me right, we're going to be there for like 4 times this year. That's 4 sellouts, going from years previously where we had none. So we are getting there at Leigh, and the club is doing better chances when it comes to buses and stuff. It's just the issue is further away from Manchester. It doesn't have the iconic pool that Old Trafford has. But I would put Leigh in the same kind of bucket as the Bayern campus, Stadio Johan Cruyff, smaller stadiums that actually are quite are quite good for the women's game and are quite famous as well. If we have a couple of European nights where we knock over Barcelona 1-0 at LSV, it will become as emotional for us as some of the men's game at Old Trafford. I think it's funny because remember LSV was a neutral ground. It's a rugby ground until United came there in 2018. And a lot of players have now said it feels like home. So home really, like the old adage said, is where the heart is to an extent. And I'm not saying Old Trafford's ever going to get replaced. But, we have got a lot of, I think if LSV was in Salford and not Lee, if it was closer to Manchester, there'd be a much less of a discussion. It's because it's so far out and they're not near any train stations or anything like that.
Yeah, it is an absolute pain to get to LSV because every time we go there, my dad goes, "I wish there was a tram what could come to here." I was like, it
or
would
a train
be
station. It used to be a train station years ago, but not anymore.
Catherine has said, "I think it's important not to replicate the men's side on the women's. Liverpool might be a big men's club, but the quality is nowhere near what you'll get against the top four." What's your thoughts on that, Chloe?
Yeah, I see what she means. Like in terms of, like, I don't think our rivalry with the Liverpool women's team is like it is it with the men's, and I think we've got to play them a lot more and build up that rivalry before we can even think about it being such a big kind of game. I know obviously it was at Liverpool. We always remember Liverpool was our first game. It was our first. We beat them. Lizzie Arnott.
Wasn't our first win of the WSL?
I think no.
Where Conte played Liverpool at the Conte away,
Yeah.
and then Reading was the first home game.
Yeah,
Okay.
we played Liverpool away, and it was our first goal, our first ever goal as a team, and that always will stick with us. But then because of obviously Liverpool getting relegated, we kind of didn't build up that rivalry. We kind of didn't have that rival to build up. So I think in more years to come, we are going to start building that rivalry up more times we play them. So if we can do that, then I think we will be. I think we will have that rivalry. But yeah, I don't think we will. I don't think we will replicate it. But United fans are always going to say Liverpool is one of that is our biggest rivalry, bigger than City. It's Leeds and Liverpool that are our biggest rivalries, which is not Derby.
Good evening, Daz. Thanks for coming in. Hope that you are well. And good evening, Liam. Hope you're well. Thanks for coming in. And hey there, I like coffee. Thanks for coming in. Hope that you are well. Andrew, who also said, did anyone think United were not going to get the win at Villa? I was amazed they pulled it off. Surely being there, Andy, you probably was a little bit nervous.
Yeah, I mean, it was weird because I said to Chloe at the time, and I suppose you remember the last pod, I did say 3-2 was my prediction, so I technically got it right in that respect. But it was just a feeling that it would be one of those games for us. It was weird because I didn't really feel like we were going to lose. I felt if anything we were going to do an Everton and draw at one point. It was only, but it was, it's interesting to go back to that final goal for Millie Turner because she's really quite far out. She's right at the edge of the 18-yard box. And 99 times out of 100, those headers are very, very low power, and the keeper just grabs them. So it was just a really good header. And I do think Villa are a different team. Villa are essentially us a year and a half ago. And, and if they can build with other players, Kirsty Hansen probably will stay. You've already got Jordan Nobbs and Rachel Daly. Whether or not she can hold on to them, because really that was just to get playing time before the World Cup. Staniforth there. Hannah Hampton, as much as I joke around about her, she is one of the top end goalkeepers that are English in the WSL. So if they start filling in more and more spaces, and they do, and they had 3 stands open when we were there on Friday night. So, they do have a chance to become, it does have a chance to be a top 4, a top 4 league instead of a top 3 league. and a top 5 league rather, because obviously we've joined City, United, and Chelsea now in the discussion, and I now think there is a gap to Villa and there's a gap to the rest of them. But I think that's a lot to say about Carla Ward and how good she is, and obviously it's funny that she got a yellow card as well in the game on Friday night, which is kind of what you want to see really, because you want your managers to be that invested. I'll be interested to know if the 5 cards and a ban works for managers as well, because that'd be quite funny.
Same question for you as well, Chloe.
Yeah, I was amazed. I think when it got to the 80th minute, I thought we're not going to get the win here. It's going to draw, or Villa are going to win. Just the way that they were pressing, in terms of Daly, she was getting the ball easy and stuff like that. And obviously then when Millie came on, I thought we're going for the draw here. Like, we took one defender off and brought on another. We're going for the draw. And then obviously when we had that corner, I remember someone said to me, Rachel Williams jumped it, missed it, and then Millie Turner got it on the noggin, as she says, and put it straight in the back of the post and into the net. And it was a cracking header. And like Andy said, 9 times out of 10, that wouldn't have gone in. It would have either gone wide or been saved. And for it to have happened, for it to have gone in, and for that to have been a winning goal, it was incredible. And I watched the interview back of Millie's on the show, and she said that Ian Wilcox basically said, right, go out there, we'll get a set piece, and you're going to have your head on that, and you're going to score the winning goal. And she did. And it just shows how much confidence staff have in players, and going out there, even saying to her, go out there, we'll get a set piece, you're going to score the winning goal, and obviously having that pressure put on you as well. But she did it. She was outstanding, and obviously all the girls fought hard. They fought to the end and fought until the final whistle. And yeah, we got the win, and that's all that matters.
Absolutely, completely agree with that. As well, good evening, Static. Thanks for coming in. Hope that you are well. A good comment here, which we're going to touch on now. Sell them out. Will Bovisa get a start, or Mark change formation? We know what Mark is like with his formations, so I've still stuck with I've done a predicted lineup. I've still stuck with the 4-2-3-1. And here is what I have gone for the 4-2-3-1. So I've got Mary Earps in goal, Blundell, Mannion, Letitia in the back 4. Got Hayley Ladder, Bovisa in the pivot. Galton, Toon, Garcia in the attacking threat with Russo up top. Chloe, what's your thoughts on that? Any you disagree with?
I think for me, he's going to go back to Turner. I think he might go back to Miller. Even though Mannion's been playing really well, I think just because it's Tottenham and he don't want to risk it for Wembley the week after, I think he'll start Mannion on the bench and start Miller. And obviously Zellam's got a suspension, so it'll be interesting to see who's going to be captain, because I think if Mannion does start, she will be captain. She's one of the leaders. But if Mannion doesn't start, it'll either be Ladd or Honor. So that will be interesting. In terms of the wingers, I think it's going to be the right way. I think Garcia might start, because obviously she didn't start last game, and I think Garcia starting against Tottenham will probably be better for us. But other than that, I think it's spot on. So I'd probably see the changes of Turner coming in, but if not,
the only reason why I didn't put Millie Turner in, I think that Mark Skinner wants to rest her for Wembley, and then he will use her for Wembley. What's your thoughts, Andy?
I don't know. I'm just looking now. I can't see it any easier way. I wonder what the yellow card situation is at the moment, because have we got anybody else on 4?
I think it's Hayley Ladd.
Right, because obviously if she gets the yellow at Tottenham, she's out for Wembley. So will that affect his discussion? Probably not, is the answer, because there's no really other way you can do it. as you say, with Zelen being suspended, I think Boris is the obvious choice, unless he does something a bit weird, like he's been, like he did when he had Tooney. He sort of had Tooney on the wing at one point, didn't he, a couple of games ago? And he starts playing around and to get another winger on, to get Paris on somewhere. It's hard to tell. I think he might look at the Man United situation and say, well, having Turner coming off the bench works out well for us. But I think he's going to struggle if we give Tottenham too much respect, because all right, they are ninth in the league, but Beth England is very, very strong, like Rachel Daly. Now, all right, unlike Villa, who has say 2 or 3 good players, Spurs basically just have one, which would be easier to neutralise. But certainly, I'd want to be seeing, if I was Russo, I'd want a goal, because it feels like it's been a while, even though Arsenal obviously was only a couple of games ago, and certainly maybe Tooney, because Tooney's had a rough season so far. So hopefully people will see it as an opportunity. And if I was Mark, I'd be saying, right, okay, the FA Cup finals next weekend. Whether or not it's bullshit or not, everyone here can get on the team sheet. Come show me what you're made of, and try and get people to use it as an audition for the FA Cup final. But I do wonder if he's going to take Lad off then on 4 cards if we're ahead at half time.
But then
who'd you put? For me, it's who you put in Lad.
But then it'd have to be Cascarino.
That's who I thought.
But she'd be, and that for me is a. Not that I think she's a bad player, but I think it would be a bit of a worry, just because she'd be very, very rusty, and especially with this Spurs team, if they was to drop any more points, and then Leicester, Brighton, and Reading pick up points, they're in serious threat of relegation.
Yeah, 100%, and I think that's the worry, and it's probably already going through Lad's head. It's probably already going through Mark and Martin's head of what do they do with Lad. She's on 4 yellows. Who do you replace her with? Like, do you even, if she does start or if she is in the team, do you bench her and then bring her on? But then again, you're risking her. But we need to have that midfield. We need to have at least a player who's got that experience to play at Wembley, and I think if Lad does get a yellow, it's one of them.
Will she be out for the FA Cup final or City?
I thought it was City. I didn't think it was going over.
I've heard it's because FA Cup finals class as a domestic competition. It would be FA Cup final. Maybe other people would know in the comments. In
the comments, does she not? Would she know?
Hopefully it's one of the ones that we won't have to think about. But again, I know you guys disagree, but I think it's ludicrous to keep it 5 and a ban for 19 games. I know there's less games in the women's and the men's, but I think if you did it proportionally and wiped it after 10, you're not going to get people suddenly going in a lot rougher because I think, I've had my card wiped. But because I think having Lad playing quite nervously, and I was just looking at with the yellow situation. Is not brilliant for the end of the season. I'm just looking at our squad, and it is interesting. So we're on United's website. We've got listed as midfielders. Well, Jade Moore's at Reading, Ella Toon, Villa Budderisa, Katie Zellum, Leah Galton, Hayley Ladd, Lisa Nanson. Now, I don't know if she's back or not. Mark's gone very quiet on that.
Elsa, he said. She'll be back for the FA Cup final.
Back for the FA Cup final, possibly. Maybe that's why he's going to risk it then. Maybe that's his ace in the hole in that respect. Hanson's at Villa on loan. Carrie Jones is at Leicester. Grace Clinton is at Bristol, but their season's finished now. So will he bring her back in the squad for the last few weeks? You never know. And as you say, Cascarino, but the only one really is Cascarino, isn't there?
Do you know, I was thinking about formations. If Skinner was to change formations, I think this is what he'll do. I think he'll play a 4-1-4-1. Put Boisa there, and then put Lad there.
Yeah, that looks.
And then if he goes in a different direction and have Paris where Boisa is, like he did that time.
So we could drop Garcia possibly.
Yeah, or Boisa. Not that I want to drop, but doesn't like her.
But then who will play in the midfield?
Yeah,
Would that mean Toom will play?
No, in your new formation, put Paris where Borisa is next to Garcia.
I don't think that would look right though. That's still a problem.
Yeah, Paris wouldn't work in midfield. She's a better winger than being in mid. So I would stick with Borisa.
I know, I agree. I'm just saying. I just.
Well, you never know though. I guess you never know with Matt Skinner. But here's the interesting thing now. I think there's two questions here. What we need to think of in terms of the game is one. How do you think Manchester United will cope without Katie Zelem? Because we relied on Katie Zelem in every single game. I know she divides opinions like Marmite. There's people who love her, there's people who hate her. That's why I call her Marmite, because there's a bit of both what goes on. So one question is, because we always knew Casey Stone and Matt Skinner both liked Katie Zelem, and then it's a matter of this game will really show, do we rely on Katie Zelem to get the work done in the midfield, one, and two, who's going to be our captain, because we know of the leadership group. And I'll go with you for both them questions first, Ander.
I think, to be honest, we're going to be fine without Katie Zelem, apart from the fact that Skinner will be crying in the toilet, going, "Can I not pick her?" No, Mark, she's suspended. Oh, but I can't have her on there. No, I mean, I think we've always discussed about her abilities. She isn't as bad as possibly as I initially thought she was, but that's partly because Skinner went so strong, shutting down any criticism and making her sound like, as I said, Alexia Putellas with fake tan, which she isn't. So I think we won't really miss her, to be honest, at all. This master communicator stuff is just Rolex, to be honest. It's not. There is enough leaders in the team. Who's going to get captain? Well, before the merry-go-round, Mannion was deputy before she got her ACL, so it probably would be Mannion if she starts. If not, it'd be Honor. But I think it's one of them where maybe it'll encourage Skinner to think about things in a different way. But he's never dropped her, and as I said, in a way, the weird thing about this season is he played her more. So last season he did drop off a Conti. Like and she used to be dropped for Conti, and then she wasn't dropped for Conti. So
he brought in at halftime.
He's going in the other direction. So it'd be interesting to see what Mark Skinner does with Katie Zelem in the stands for 90 minutes.
Mm-hmm. And same question for you, Chloe.
I think we will cope without her. I do. It will definitely show, like, if Borisa starts, it will definitely show her attributes and what she brings to the team, because we all know what she can bring to it. We just want her. We want her to play more, and hopefully, with Katie Zelem being out, she won't be benched. And to be honest with the captaincy, I think either Manu might get it if she starts, Honor. But if I know Hayley Ladd's in the leadership group, so with her being on 4 yellows, if giving the captain armband to Ladd and her having that leadership role and having that responsibility, if that stops her getting a yellow card, then I would give it to her. But for me, if Hayley gets a yellow, if Hayley obviously doesn't get a yellow against Tottenham but gets a yellow in the FA Cup final, and if this is how it does work, that she'll miss, that we get the yellow in the FA Cup final, she misses the next game, she'll miss City, and I think she is more crucial for City. So it's what do they want to do, and how much can Hayley Ladd not go in as much to get a yellow card. So it'll be interesting to see what he does, and it'll be interesting to see who's captain. But like Andy touched on, I think it's going to be Mannion if she starts. If not, it will obviously go to Honor or Hayley.
This comment made, I thought it was so funny. Thomas has to stay without her. I won't be able to accurately predict the subs. that honestly, has made me laugh, I must be honest. But for me, in my opinion, it is going to be interesting without Zellum. I do agree though. We will be able to do the work just fine. We've got more than enough midfielders to continue. Me personally, I think there is gonna. I will put Honor a Golden on the corners. I'd put Borisa on the set pieces. And the captains there. I know we've already mentioned Mannion and Honor, but I'd probably give it Hayley Ladd.
Yeah.
Because I'm one of these type of people, like, I don't like strikers, I don't like goalkeepers being a captain, just because I feel like when you're a captain, you need to see everything what goes on the pitch. And I think when you're a striker and when you're a goalkeeper, that really restricts that. And I think Hayley Ladd, I know this sounds very weird when I'm saying this, she's slap in the middle. So she'll be able to see what's behind her and what's in front of her. Mannion can see what's in front of her as well. So she will probably be a good option. I think even though Honor, she was a great leader when she done the captain says she is still only very young as well, and I think she is a future captain for Manchester United if she was to stay at Manchester United. But I would give it Hayley Ladd just for that kind of just based off the position she plays, and I think she is a fantastic leader as well.
Yeah, like that for me, it sounds like I agree with that. And in terms of obviously like set pieces, because we all know Kate takes a lot of them. I would stick with Borisa taking the free kicks because we know she can score from them. But then in terms of taking corners, we've very rarely seen anyone else take them, and it'll be interesting to see who does. Because I wouldn't have Leah taking corners because I think with her being such a tall player, I think her being in the box, it's a lot more creative. So I would say who does take them as well? Does Borisa take them?
I think you can.
Yeah.
Well, I think she could though.
Yeah, I think she could because they'll practice every day. They'll practice every day for set pieces. So I think they'll know, like, in terms of they'll start practicing again now, and it'll be like, right, you can take left corners, you can take right corners. Boa, you're on the free kicks. Russo too, you're on the penalties. So it'll be interesting to see what it'll be like and how it goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. What we'll go into a couple of the questions before we do wrap up. So we'll start with this question from Raver. Do Spurs have any decent players? They've got Beth England, and I think that she is definitely one to poach if Spurs to get relegated. Spurs get relegated, please. She could be our Alessia Russo replacement, and I think they'll get rid. And I think she will want to go, so I think we could potentially get her a bit cheaper. There's one Arsenal loanee as well. I can't think of a name right now. And there's Ashley Neville. I know there's Amy Turner, but I just don't think Amy Turner's done well in this Spurs squad, to be honest. Any other ones I may have missed out?
I would say Shalene Zadorska, the Canadian. For me, she's a very good defender, and she's very attacking as well. So she could be a threat. And like you said, obviously we've got this Beth England, Ash Neville. Thought Catherine that one. But yeah, I think there's definitely them ones, and if they do get relegated, there's going to be a lot of them that have either got it in contracts that they can leave, or there's going to be a lot that are going to say, I want to go, here's my transfer request. Because obviously they want to keep playing at that high level in terms of getting in obviously the national team. So yeah, I think they're the ones you touched on as well, and Catherine's favourite.
Well,
Yeah.
Catherine's in the chat. Can I ask a question because she's Canadian. Jade Riviera, what's the deal? Is she any good? Is she? I know she was injured. Do you see her as a squad player at United? Is she on a replacement? Because none of us really know enough about her, apart from a very cringy poutine chant, which trust me, you don't want to hear. So I'd love to know if you have any thoughts on Jade Riviera.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Catherine. I missed out a Canadian player there as well. We'll go on to the next question from Vincent, who is asked for Andy and Chloe. Can I ask you, what's your thoughts about Mary Earps not coming over to the United supporters, but only the Villa? I did not give any autographs while we was all waiting. But I did see a picture, and I do believe she did take some pictures with some United fan children wise, but I'll go to you on that first, Andy.
I think okay. How do we put it on the stand? You come to watch the football. Come to watch the football. You've come to watch the football. Vincent, Mary doesn't owe you shit, mate. Or any other doesn't owe me anything either. I don't care if you wait 6 hours or 10 days. The idea that people go to women's football games for a selfie and a hug, it's nice when it happens, but it is not something that you can demand or say that's going to happen. Mary does try and sign a hell of a lot, but she's swamped now, like all the Lionesses players are. And it is quite sad because as someone who has had a picture with Mary years ago and Leah Galton, there are other players I would like to have had pictures with or spoken to, but in reality, that ship probably has sailed now. Chloe will tell you that we enjoyed chanting and sort of chanting across after the match. None of our players came over outside the match anymore. They went straight on the coach. Now, I'm not saying that's going to be the same forever. That's going to be like that forever, and maybe there will be some more formalized opportunities, like meet and greets you might have with the men's, in the mega store or whatever, that are a bit different. And it is sad that the game's lost a little bit of that. And I know it's very important for a lot of people to have that connection. But when you start thinking that it's something that, 100% will happen, and you get upset it doesn't happen, that for me is not the reason why you're there.
What's your thoughts on what Vincent has said as well, Chloe?
I think I've read it in a different way to what Andy's read it in, because I think because the way I've read it with what Vincent's saying, I think he's more saying like she's gone and done a lot of the Villa fans and not done any of the United ones, and not. But what I've heard is that she was the last player in the stadium signing every single fan in there. And I think as well, like Andy touched on, Mary doesn't owe us anything. If she wants to sign, she will do. And she came over and gave one of her gloves to someone and another glove to someone. And Nikita came over and gave a boots to a fan. So I know they do come over, but it's not as regular anymore. And it's not. It's like every time. It was 8 minutes before the game on Friday, that fans were already there. That fans were at the bottom waiting, and I feel sorry for the players that were at the bottom of the stadium, like on the bottom of where they sit, because they couldn't see anything. Their view was blocked, and I think if Mary didn't come to you, she didn't come to you. She had a lot of fans to go to. A lot of people wanted her autograph. She got to as many people as she could, and I think it was on the other side of the buses, not where we stood. But I know a few fans did get pictures with United players, because I think Nat said that Vilda was over there, Millie Turner was over there, Maya was over there, and I've seen a few fans have got pictures of players near the buses. And I think if some players do want to do that, they will. But when fans are only just after the Lionesses, then they're not gonna always do it. They're not always gonna want to be like, fans don't want to see me. They just want the Lionesses, and that's, for me, that's where
you do see it's a shame though,
Yeah.
because like, yes, I think I read this story where someone with Martha Thomas come over to some of the players and
Yeah.
they went, I don't want to see you, I want to see
Yeah.
Ella Toon.
Yeah,
And it's not. This is what annoys me. It's not Lionesses FC. It's Manchester United FC. You come
Yeah,
to see the players. You don't come to see the Lionesses.
Yeah, and
yeah, exactly. And I think for me, another one of my friends said that she saw someone get a Martha Thomas shirt, and then the next game she brought in a sign asking for Mary Earps's shirt. So it's like, that's just like a kick in the face for Martha Thomas. You've literally just got a shirt, and now you've brought in a sign saying Mary Earps, can I have your shirt? And
I mean,
that shows it's not. It is literally turning into Lioness FC, because every other player, if you're not playing in the Lionesses, and I don't even think it happens to Nikita Paris. I think Nikita's one of them that she doesn't get a lot of it. It's Toon and Russo and Mary. And
yeah.
It's one of them. I think if she came over to you, she came over to you. But if she didn't, then I don't think that it's such a big deal. Because I did see her do some autographs before we went out the stadium with the United fans. I did see that, but she had a lot of fans to go to. For doing it to Aston Villa fans while she's at Aston Villa, it makes more sense than doing it at United when she could go and do them at LSV. So I see why she did it for the Villa fans and mainly not at the United ones.
Mm-hmm. The thing is that, look, like, I know you've seen a lot of the players and stuff as well, but one player who I'd always wanted to see was Bo Visa, because you know how much I like Bo Visa, and it's got to the point where most likely she is gone in the summer. She's not going to probably be extending her contract, and the thing is that I just appreciate whatever time she's got left here at Man United, and I think probably now this is going to probably be a last start, unless Hayley Ladd gets a suspension.
Yeah, 100%.
I was just going to say, I mean, they do also, like, we were with a friend of ours who'd come over from Mexico. So when Russo heard that the person had come over from Mexico, she did come over for that player. So they will do things like that. They do recognize people who follow them up and down the country. That gets recognized. Whether or not I do, I don't know, but you know, they kind of do recognize people. I just think I was actually drawn by a tweet when that did a few days ago, which is actually quite a good point. Which was, it was a special moment when Millie came over and did a slide with, come on, and sort of celebrated with the fans. But it was with all these fans, these signs asking for shirts and bollocks. The real fans were behind the signs, and I'm sure they saw us and stuff. And it is like, I don't know. I mean, look, I never had really much confidence to get in pictures with players. I know, Chloe, it's a much bigger deal for you than it is for me. I'm not saying that it shouldn't happen, but I just think that people, in chasing the picture, people are forgetting how special it can be just to be at the sideline when they get over to you and you're right in front of you. And I think was one of the points that Nat made, and she said, that doesn't happen that often in the men's, that they come and celebrate right in front of your nose. And that moment was spoiled by the 16 million kids with signs saying, can I have a shirt, can I have a, things like that. And I hope to get pictures with Honor if she goes. I hope to get chances to do that going forward. I wouldn't want to stop anyone from doing that. What I respond in a more negative way towards, if I interpreted it correctly, is the idea that, well, she didn't come over, so that's my day ruined. No, you were there to watch Man United and watch the game. That is very much a nice to have in my respect, because even if you don't come over, what you can do, and we kind of did do that when we were near the coaches, is you can have some verbal back and forth, Martin, and people start sort of chanting and dancing and stuff, and they'll respond with a wave or a smile, or they might even say something back, and you can have that interaction, and it will come back. But I don't blame them, to be honest. Oh, fantastic news, I think, looking at that. But I don't blame them, to be honest, when you think about, we discussed it on a previous pod. Apparently, the game that I had that was the COVID game for me, when I wasn't there, you had women, mothers lifting their children over the barriers to run after players' cars. Until people stop doing that, you're not going to get any interaction. And we're very, very lucky that we get what we get in a minute.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure Andy's going to be happy at this. Wolfsburg scored. I don't know if Chloe's feeling the same. But that looks like it's bye-bye Arsenal.
Hopefully.
They've just scored in the last minute, 119 minutes. Lotte Ruben Moy was caught in possession by Julie Brand, and Pauline Bremer, ex-City player, scored. So that means that if Arsenal don't make it and obviously don't win, then it's only going to be the 3 teams up. So it's even more of a chance to get that Champions League spot now and win the next few games.
Oh, it means we can sing our Arsenal bottled it chant again.
Arsenal get battered everywhere they go, everywhere they go, everywhere they go. But we'll be singing that to Tottenham in the weekend. Catherine did get back to you, Andy.
Yeah.
Catherine said she is young and mainly a bench player for Cadidot. Matt targeted her because she has immense growth potential, but it's still early to say she could benefit from a loan where she will get consistent play.
See, that's so interesting because I think the way it was pitched over here was that she's a gold medalist and she might be on as replacement, which obviously would be different to what you're saying there, Catherine. So that's interesting, and I think you're probably right there. So I wonder whether or not she is on her 2 years ago, which was an unknown player, and maybe they are looking more long term. But that's interesting that because, as I said, she was pitched as a much bigger signing, wasn't she, when she came in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And Catherine also said in the NWSL had the same problem in its early years. People wanted the USA autographs and would even sometimes cheer for the opposite team with the players, but it's gone now, which is very interesting. Maybe after the World Cup that could be the same as well, depending on how England goes in the World Cup, of course.
Yeah, I think 100%. I think if because we won it, and obviously anyone who's in INS's team who's won the Euros is getting that recognition, then if we do well again in the World Cup, whoever's in that team will get the same, and it's gonna be one of them that I hope it does kind of start to slow down, so that people who have been there years, like the fans who have been there from day one, can start going and seeing the players again and not have the kids in front or the parents pushing the kids in front of you for them to get a picture. Then I hope that comes to it. And for me, it's just a shame that it's gone from being able to go and being able to stand there, get a picture with a player who obviously has been a great asset to the team and stuff like that, to then now just having to be like, I can't go because there's thousands of kids in front and there's no point, because they'll do so many and go, I've had enough, or stuff like that. Or you get to the front and a kid pushes in front of you, and it's just getting like that. And like what Andy touched on, kids running in front of the cars, kids being lifted over the barriers by parents. Like, parents shouldn't be encouraging this, and it just seems like it's all come from the Euros, and it shouldn't have done. It should have been, we've won the Euros, and that's all that matters. But it's one of them. We'll have to just see what happens in the future towards it.
It's just a difficult one, because I do wonder. It's more like a thought experiment. I do wonder if there was an announcement at the first game of the season next year and said you'll never get to have a picture ever again with players, how many people would stop going? Because I think if they did the same in the men's, there wouldn't be much of a drop off because you don't have that much pitches in the men's. Now, I'm not saying it needs to go like that or I would advocate that. As I said, I enjoy saying good games to the players. I enjoyed having a little chat with them. I never had enough confidence to have many pitches with them. But I just do wonder whether or not it's just a natural growth of the game. And if you're going to sell out LSV just by sheer numbers, this is going to be a. Do you remember when? I mean, you've got people, none of us, but you got people that are old enough to remember like having pints with players in the men's team 70s and 80s because there was it was a lot lower level and and people were local to the team, but it doesn't happen like that anymore. So I do wonder whether or not it will go by the wayside. I hope not. But as I say, as long as people see it as a nice to have rather than that, I think I should have this situation, then I think it'll be okay.
Mm-hmm. Zoe and Reese asked a similar question. I think you'll both agree with me on this, as when I do answer Reese's question, it's too difficult to say where to strengthen in the summer. And the reason why I say this, 12 players are up for contract at the end of the day. We don't know who's extending, who's leaving. If all 12 of them gone, we need a massive rebuild. It's as simple as that. But if, for instance, we could at least get 6 people's contracts sorted, then it's not going to be too much of an issue. So I think at this moment in time, it's too difficult to say where to strengthen, where not to strengthen.
Yeah. No. Go on, Andy.
All right. I mean, I think some of the places I'd start are a bit more, honest, like we discussed, slightly strange. Like, I think we really need top priority a second goalkeeper. That seems a bit weird because you only play one at a time. But like you've just seen, Champions League, you need the drop off between your number 1 and number 2 to be a slight drop, not a chasm. So I think we definitely need to consider. I mean, Patel's coming on really well. Middleton's coming on really well, but she's not there yet. She's our solid number 3. I think we could do with a second keeper. And I think also, it's so hard, as Maisy said, because if Honor and Russo go, then we have to fill them spaces before we do anything else. But I would certainly say that we need to really strongly consider. Are we going to let Hansen go? If so, let's get it done. Let's deal with that problem. If Barisa goes, Mark seems to have a habit of picking a million midfielders in the squad and then wonder why he can't play them all. So is he going to continue with that pattern next year? Obviously, Rachel will be in a final year of her playing career, most likely. It will very much be a sub player like she's been this season. Do we need another striker? It is a very difficult conversation.
Mm-hmm. And what's your thoughts as well, Chloe?
I think we definitely need to strengthen in striker up front. Whether Russo stays or not, I think we need to strengthen there. I'd say get another fullback, just so then we've got. I know we've got Jada Riviera as a replacement, but I think we need another. So we've got 2, one for Hannah, one for Honor, and we've got them backups because we don't know if Honor goes down, you bring on one. If then Hannah goes down, who you need that other backup. So I'd definitely say another fullback, and another keeper would be good. But I think we'd have to get rid of Emily Ramsey.
Fine.
Or get rid of Soph Bagley.
Fine.
But I'm probably wrong.
A question was though, don't you have faith in Soph? That was Sophie Bagley, wasn't it? Yeah, I was thinking of Sapphire Middle and Patel for some reason off the top.
Yeah, Sapphire Middle and Patel is brilliant. No, I mean it's just a personal view. I think Emily Ramsey's needs to play number 1 now. She'll probably go to Everton. I'm just saying no because I'm unfortunate. I'd let both go. Baggers isn't good enough to be our number 1 long term. Yeah, and she's a big drop off when
Rambo doesn't want to be number 2.
Yeah, and Patel's not there yet. So I just go back to Berger Muscovich, and they've just signed the new Belgian one for next year as well. Arsenal have Zinsberger and somebody else, some Brazilian who's quite good.
Canadian.
Rather. Sorry. Yeah, and then even City, when everybody's fit, you've got Roebuck and you've got Sandy McKeever. All of the top three have very strong keepers in 1 and 2, or at least a strong keeper in 2. That's what I'm saying. That none of the other teams have such a big drop off from number 1 to number 2. And obviously Chelsea at the minute, I know probably Berger might move on, but Chelsea at the minute haven't even got a drop off. They've got an equal line between all 3 of them. So I just think going into Champions League, and if we are going to have to start rotating, we are going to have to get a second keeper. Now, I appreciate it's a difficult sell because every keeper needs to play, every keeper wants to play. So I don't know who we would get or how that would happen. But I think certain players, I mean, you'll see this more generally in football. I don't know if you'd agree, Chloe and Maisy, but certain players have a ceiling. You can coach them to a certain point, and certain players are top 4, certain players are Championship, certain players are Prem for the men or WSL the women. And we are still a squad that at the end of the day has been going since 2018. And I think we pretty much got most of our squad now is at the right level of top 3 WSL. But, with my thanks, she was a good signing at the time. But I would thank Baggers for her effort and let her go to a Birmingham or let her go to a Bristol or let her go to somebody like that and see who would get as a second keeper.
I don't actually think she'll make it in Bristol because I think they'll keep
Bentley. Yeah, that's what I mean. But a Reading or whatever,
Yeah, I know what you mean completely, and I do agree with Catherine. We do need to expand the side for the Champions League, and Catherine also said if you win the WSL, the recruitment does become easier because it's the Champions League. And I was Zoe saying, with the current squad, can we compete in the Champions League? I'd actually say no. I genuinely don't think, based off this squad. I think we've got some great individuals in there who will be the difference, but there's a few things for me. One, I think the midfield can be very, very stale at time to time, and I think for me, you always need to keep refreshed in that midfield. 2, you need a 15-goal a season striker. I like Russo. Her overall game is great, but she isn't a 15-goal a season striker. I think we've got some experience there in Nikita Paris. Honor, she will be great in the Champions League as well. Mary Ertz has had Champions League experience, so we do have and Mannion. I'm sure she's had Man City experience in the Champions League, so we do have experience in there, but we just need to elevate the squad to compete.
Yeah, 100%. I think we've just got to. I think the main thing is looking who Mark and Martin see who's ready for Champions League, because we've heard or we've seen on Twitter that it all depends. I think if we get Champions League, a lot of players are going to want to stay, and
I've read that,
and I think that's what players like Russo, Honor, Mary, Hayley Ladd, players like that are going to look into being like, right, we've got Champions League, I'm happy to sign, because that's what they want to play. They want to go on and play in that. And if you look at the likes, because all 3 of our keepers are up, Mary's up, Emily Ramsey's up, Sophie Bagley's up. If we sign Mary, but then we'd say we let Emily Ramsey go, and so we've still got Sophie Bagley. It's who do you look at to bring in a second keeper? Because if we get Champions League, no top team will give us their keeper. Not a chance, because we are their rivals in the Champions League. They will want to keep us away from their players, and their best player. Like, if you want a top keeper who is going to be happy to go from probably playing as a number 1 at a team, say in Ajax or PSV, who's going to play as a number 1 there, but then going to drop down to number 2. Are they going to be happy with that? They've got to see, and Mark and Martin have got to have a look and say, right, they've played as a number 2, or they've played as a 1, but in cup games they've played as a number 2. That's fine. They're happy with that, or stuff like that. And for me, they've got to. I think they've just got to decide who's important and what position is important, because we've not got a strong enough squad yet, but if we pick the right players, if we get the right players signed and the right players extended in contracts, we'll have a top team and a top team to basically compete in the Champions League. And that's what we need. We need the investment, and we need to win this league before even thinking about getting other players. Because if we can get, like I said, if we can get Champions League, we've then got to think, right, what teams do we want to nick players from? Like that, for me, the Leicester goalkeeper who's on loan, the Bayern Munich goalkeeper who's on loan at Leicester,
that would be a number 2 I'd take.
She would be the number 2 I would take. But me and Andy have had this discussion. If Bayern Munich, if she's obviously, because she's on loan at Leicester, if we get Champions League, I can't see Bayern Munich selling her unless she is, because I think she signed a new contract. So I think unless she wants to go and play in the WSL, I can't see us getting her. But
it must be doable though, because we've just discussed Chelsea have got a situation with no drop off between 1 and 2, or very little drop off. City, you could argue, have got a much less drop off with McKeever to Roebuck, as have Arsenal. So if they can, it must be doable, because otherwise there'd be no examples in the league where people have done it. And I do worry, actually, and not that I'm getting greedy, we want Champions League, but if we get 3rd place, if I was an agent for a player, I'd be sort of saying no guarantee. Think of City, they got knocked out in the qualifiers, so it's a weird. We kind of almost need 2nd. I know we still got to qualify with 2nd, but because you could get Champions League and then lose it in September and not be in the Conti Cup next year. So it is going to be a difficult one, and I agree with what Catherine's saying. Until we become a club where you consistently know we're going to get top 3, it is going to be tough. But just going back to the keeper situation, that's what I mean. I mean, obviously, they got Sandy McKeever to City was an interesting one, because she did play and now she doesn't, I believe. And it must be doable somehow. But whether or not, we'll just have to see what happens, I suppose. But it's just a good one.
Ellie's right though about the Glazers, of course, but
yeah.
I think the problem is when it does come to the summer is I don't think the Glazers will be gone by then.
No.
That's just what the problem is, because they are, how can I say, they are dragging the bidding process. So I think they've made an extra stage for the bidding process. We're hearing all kinds of scenarios like Jim Ratcliffe has bidded more, or Shay Jassim has bidded more. It's just kind of one of them. So I know we definitely do need the Glazers out, however way it's going to be, but I just can't see it till it does come to the summer. But Ellie, sorry, if you are going to be chanting Glazers out on the weekend, I'll chant it with you, because I'm going to chant it. So
it was chanted at Villa.
Brilliant. I'm going to be chanting it at the weekend. So if you want to join, any of you, perfect. To say with you as well, Ella, if you are interested too. Catherine did also mention one from Levante. I haven't watched her. I look like Chloe Arts, actually. I'm guessing.
Yeah, I agree. Alba Randerano, she's a cracking player. I've seen her play for Levante. I think Andy will have done as well on streams. But I've also seen her play for Spain, and she's a fantastic player. So if we can get her, she's obviously another help for us to keep on her. She'll be obviously, she knows Lucia Garcia. So yeah, it will be good it will be good if we can keep her. But another one that I would like, and I know I've heard she's going to Man City, but that's Katie Robinson from Brighton, because she's a young prospect. She's a very fast winger, very fast midfielder. She can play as a centre mid and not just as a winger, so that kind of gives us if Boarisa does go, obviously if Fuso goes, if Jade Moore goes, we've got to bring in a hell of a lot of players that are midfielders, because obviously Casarino is on loan from Lyon, so she'll be going back. Obviously we'll have Grace Clinton back, we'll have Carrie Jones back, but like we've touched on, there's a lot of players that are out of contract or that have been given options. But again, we don't know any of this. We don't know the options that have been given. We've heard of Haley Ladd signing. We've heard
option to extend is Spagler, Blundell, Maria, Bovisa, Haley Ladd, Carrie Jones, and Martha Thomas. They've all got the option to extend.
So I can see all of them being given their options being given their options, and I think the only one that I can't see being given an option is Sophie Bagley. That's if she wants to go and play a lot more first time. But obviously, if you get Champions League and you get that opportunity to be in a Champions League team, you're going to take it. You are going to want to stay. So it's all going to, just like I said, it's all going to depend on do we get Champions League, and out of how many of them contracts do we give an option to, because we can't give them all. We can't, and we've got to think of the ones that haven't got that option, like Russo, like Connor. We've got to think about them too as well, and we've got to say, right, we need Russo, we need Honor. They're the two priorities. Haley Ladd, priority. Bo Reese, a priority. Mary Earps, priority. And then it's who then do we think, right, let's get a replacement for a winger, let's get a replacement for a fullback, and then you've then got to think, right, I've got that replacement, we've signed them, that player can go. So we need to bring in players before we can sign them, and that's very hard to do when you're looking at Europe and the teams that you're going to face at Europe. So it's going to be very interesting as well. So let's see, obviously, these last 4 games, and then we'll see what the summer brings to us, because I think we're all going to be nervous, and obviously hopefully we'll do a couple of transfer shows as well.
Absolutely. Finishing off from Ravi's question, Spurs play a 4-4-2 low block. Reese has gone 2-0 for Man United, and Niall's gone for 4-1 as Tottenham get battered everywhere they go. So we'll wrap it up here. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Chloe, for both coming on. Been a great show as always. Andy, would you like to give your score prediction and also your shout out your socials?
Yeah, obviously great to be on. Maisy, great to be on with you, Chloe, again. My social is at the minute AJO_87. Score prediction. I don't know if we've got the ability to build a high amount of goals. I think we might have lost that the last few games that we've had because we played a different squad. But it is Tottenham and it is Beth England. So I think I'm going to nick Niall's one there. I think 4-1 to United.
What about you, Chloe? And would you like to shout out your socials also?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on again, Maisy, and it's always great to be on with you, Maisy, and also you, Andy. I think I can't see Tottenham not scoring, especially with Beth England in the squad. Obviously, if she starts, because I know she's come off the bench a couple of times. So I'm going to go 3-1 United. My socials there, Chloe Ryder 14. Unfortunately, I won't be at the game on Sunday, but I will obviously be keeping my eye on it, and hopefully I'll see you two on the TV enjoying it.
Yeah, absolutely. Ravi's gone for a 3-1, and that was the exact same one I was going to say, 3-1 for United. As I say, Beth England, I can't see her not scoring, to be honest. And Catherine's got for 2-0 for Man United as well. And hey there, Football Fiera, thanks for coming in. Hope that you are well. Thank you both of you for coming on. Been a great show as always. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I will be next live on Thursday. So I do have a poll in the community tab. Do you want me to do a build-up show or a match reaction? Give that a bit of a vote, and then we will be able to and I'll do one of the two. But thank you all. It's been a great as always. Take care. Bye bye.